And fresh off the back of the NATO summit, EU leaders now in Brussels for a one-day summit focusing on security and economic challenges. This as the war in Ukraine grinds on and uncertainty looms over US commitment to transatlantic security. Leaders set to discuss how to boost the defense industry for a sustained and effective response to Russian aggression. Also on the agenda, growing the European single market and membership expansion in the European Council. And for more, we have Will Denselow live from Brussels. Will, because the overlap in membership between NATO and the EU, so the NATO 32, EU 27 and 23 members they have in common. So they've just come from NATO, where they have agreed, members there agreed largely to increase their defense spending to 5%. So defense spending and the accompanying security that goes with this spending very high on their minds. Is this momentum going to carry over into talks here in Brussels?
Well, a huge emphasis is on whether those 23 member states that are also a part of NATO can put their money where their mouth is, with this huge commitment to, as President Trump says, potentially put an extra $1 trillion per year into defence spending. We've heard from Roberta Metsola, the President of the European Parliament. She says that it's now time to do their homework and to put their house in order when it comes to these defence preparedness plans. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, says that inaction is untenable. Of course, the EU also has its defence spending plans that could unlock to the tune of $800 billion or so going forward for defence across the bloc. However, there are questions among member states as to how exactly to boost this spending on defence. There are plans such as the so-called Arms for Loans programme, or SAFE, as it's known here in Brussels. But we've heard from Belgium's the Netherlands representative, for example, who says there's no such thing as free money. So perhaps putting some doubt into the Netherlands' commitment to that SAFE plan. Other things on the agenda, well, as you said, geopolitics, certainly a key theme of this summit here in Brussels. The issue of Russian sanctions, will they be able to see agreement on an 18th round? There are holdouts, notably from the likes of Slovakia and Hungary. On the issue of Israel, another key issue, we've heard from the likes of Slovenia, Spain and Ireland that want to see more tangible action when it comes to repercussions to Israel's military activities in Gaza. So those are just a few of the major geopolitical issues on the docket. Domestically, things like migration and climate policies also are featuring.
Well, of course, trade also in focus. Now, if coming from NATO, agreeing to boost defense spending was meant to keep Mr. Trump on side, they still face looming tariff threats if they're unable to reach a trade deal with Washington by early July. What do we know about any kind of trade deal between the European Union and Washington?
Well, when it comes to trade, that was a stark reminder from President Trump, who said that Spain could see their tariffs potentially double if they don't do their fair share as far as Washington sees it on defence. So that was a little reminder that this trade spat between European allies and the US continues to boil away in the background, despite some unanimity when it comes to defence spending. We are working towards this July 9th deadline, where potentially tariffs could raise on blanket EU goods heading to the US from 10% to 50%. Now, the European Commission says that negotiations are escalating. They certainly hope that some kind of a framework agreement can be reached over the next 2 weeks, but they won't comment on the particulars of these negotiations. We've heard from a number of EU leaders, including Friedrich Merz, speaking before this summit got underway. They say they support the efforts of the Commission, but there are certainly huge hopes from European leaders that a deal can be reached over the next couple of weeks. Germany has said that they're calling for a simplified deal and have warned that the EU EU and the Commission is making things somewhat complicated. So this is another major area of discussion. And of course, as that July 9th deadline approaches, nervousness across the bloc will certainly increase, considering the fact that billions of dollars are on the line.
Will Denselow, they're laying out the geopolitical and geoeconomic concerns, all at this one-day summit in Brussels.